American Rescue Plan spending plan. And before we went through and over November and December, we kind of outlined the different projects. Well, now we have to come up with the spending plan. There's been some adjustments to that. And so we've outlined those and what's in the first phase, and they've broken that down between the spending plan and let me get the right wording here. The what? And the potential projects. So you had tranche 1, tranche 2. Now they've defined it as spending plan and potential projects. These are always going to shift because, remember, there's a timeline associated with this. So some of the items they've moved up because of concerns of whether they'd be able to get the projects done in a timely manner within that time period. And so sometimes it's just a shifting of projects. But again, we're going to review these annually. We're going to come back quarterly and present those to the commission on where we're at. And continue to refine that as we go along.
When do you anticipate us talking about the nonprofit section?
Well, we have that is within the plan. Okay, so we can discuss that whenever you want. We can discuss it on Tuesday. The idea is that we set up the nonprofit piece, and then we're going to have a process to evaluate those types of applications. And the way we broke that down is to do something first, and then kind of do a lessons learned from what type of projects we got in, and then we can make adjustments whether we want to do that on the second round or not.
Which attachment on the Granicus goes through the nonprofit section? Because I was reading through it and I did not see that pulled out.
Do you know, Chris?
I mean, it was in the 18 million, but I'm talking more about if we had talked about the process for how we were going to allocate that 18 million.
The project itself is in, just as you say, the process is not lined out in the plan. We are working with all the nonprofits. We're actually polling them right now to see what they're thinking. We don't have that information back yet.
Okay, that's where I was. Yeah, that's where I was going for the next layer of the conversation of when we would be doing that. Commissioner Gerard?
Chris, when you say all the nonprofits, what does that mean?
It's a good question. It was about 700, so all is a strong word, but it was a lot. Yes.
All right.
Commissioner Eggers? Microphone.
Thank you. You talked about the nonprofit, so that's good. I noticed that there's a piece about the CAM, our coordinated access model. There's a piece about Sheriff's Mental Health Squad. There's a piece about, well, no, the other question was, I'm meeting with a chief this afternoon. I'm not sure what the topic is going to be, the issue, but there was an article in the last 3 weeks that came out that talked about first responders having a lot of I guess, emotional issues that they're dealing with because of the last year or two, whether it's the paramedics, whether it's police, whether it's firefighters. I think it was specifically talking about firefighters. I don't know who's thinking along those lines, if there's an avenue or some money set aside that we can augment or help that process. Again, there may be parts that they're each dealing with. I just wanted to collectively see if there's something that we might be able to help out on through these funds, even if it's on a temporary basis. So
we did consider a lot of different requests, and certainly fire departments were one of those. We opted not. That's not part of our recommendations, and that because those are operational issues day to day, and I think that they need to incorporate those within their operating budgets. So for instance, like on the mental health side of the sheriff's office, it's really a funding issue. We're using some of these funds, but we've earmarked and set aside dollars to where we can continue those programs in the future. So we didn't do anything that was a short-term type operational thing. We were trying to go to capital, but on a couple of those, we're not funding the program that way. We're funding it out of the general fund, the Sheriff's Mental Health Squad, okay? But we're using these dollars to start up the program. And then we have set aside capacity to continue that on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, and I get that, but what's happened the last 2 years and what those folks have been going through, those aren't normal operating procedures. So that's why I was asking the question. And it wouldn't be necessary. It's kind of and I don't know the terms, so I'm just throwing the terms that PTSD or whatever they've gone through and what they're dealing with. So as long as they're getting the help that they need and we don't think that there's a short-term role for us, fine. But I just want to make sure that we've at least looked at that and make sure that we are getting the care, or at least to the extent that we can help.
I don't know what the individual needs are. We didn't open it up to all the fire departments because some are municipal, some are independent fire districts. The municipalities get their own funding, so we didn't open it up because when we opened the door, there's so many needs and so many different types of requests, and from a management standpoint, it was very difficult.
Well, I think you just said it, Barry, that some of those places are within cities and they have their own ARPA funds. There are some of these fire departments that are within the unincorporated, and maybe we should look at them a little differently. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I know that they're all independent, quote, independent groups, but
They
they're
do,
still
and they have their
within.
own operating funds. And so from like a standpoint of the sheriff's office, we're taking care of the sheriff's mental health needs or those types of issues operationally. When we open it up to say, what other needs are out there, that's a pretty wide door, and it's very hard to manage and report that. And so, again, I'm not saying that the need isn't there. I just think that, that ARPA funds isn't the best way to address those.
Okay, well, we might respectfully disagree on that because I think these ARPA funds are based a lot of things that we've gone through the last 2 years. There's other things too, and I just think we got to make sure that even if it's the areas that don't get that funding from cities, and again, I don't know what we're going to talk about today, but I'll let you know what I find out. But
Okay.
Yeah. So thank you.
Be happy to talk individually about any of these.
Thank you.
And it would also be for organizations to come to us if they have a need as well, to initiate that request as well.
Yep.
But 700 nonprofits, I'm surprised I haven't gotten more emails.
And that is the difficulty. There's so many different types of operational needs, and the biggest concern with the ARPA funds is the reporting requirement too, because it's not just that you have to do that; you have to have the infrastructure to get the reporting, and all that work done and reported back through the federal government in the way in which the act requires. So it becomes very, very difficult, and when you open this up administratively to manage it. Item 31 is change order to Keystone Contractors for